a plate plan. Park dedication and tree replacement, and then the property discussion, the Hunter and Bosma property, as you know, those, and then we have the bathymetric survey summary. So with that, we're going to start with water rate discussion. I'll give that over to Jasper.
Yeah. Madam Mayor, members of council, what we're trying to do today is kind of fine tune our water rates for adoption on December 8th. So what I included in the packet, mostly from the residential side, I think was fairly clear. There was some, I think, rounding up to have some round numbers because that was desired, I think. And there's two rollouts. So there's the quarterly rollout for Q1 and Q2, and then Q3 is when we would start doing monthly billing. So you can kind of see the breakdown of that. What we would likely do is we'd adopt the quarterly rates, and then close to when we would need to do monthly, we'd amend the fee schedule and adopt the monthly. But I just want to make sure that those are all out there to kind of talk about that rollout and what that'll look like in the future. And then just briefly about the commercial side, which includes the schools. That's the other piece that we need to talk about that we didn't really talk about at the last meeting, to try to dial in what those are. Generally, what those have been is they've been kind of a mirror image of the residential, but with, different tiers because it's a different scale. So we want to do something different there. What's in the packet is basically what we have for the residential, mirrored on the commercial school side. And that doesn't have much impact to the budget or the revenue side, because there's only 11 commercial accounts and 9 school accounts. So only really 20 accounts on that commercial school tier. So I guess first I'd like to just have a little discussion to try to dial in the residential side for the quarterly and the monthly rollout.
All right. So I think we kind of dialed in the 75 and the 35. So I think we did that. I think my question was, I didn't recall that we decided on 69% and 40% for tiers 3 and 4. And I'd like to see is there some way we can ratchet that back a bit? Because that's
I will say, if you
huge
use 24,000 gallons in a month, that is a substantial amount. I use that in a quarter.
It's a lot of water.
So that's a lot of water.
Okay, but we're talking about
2, 3. Well, yeah.
Quarterly.
Yeah.
So this would be quarterly.
Right. But I mean, it would still be 24,000 gallons a month to get to the 72 or even the 16,000. Like,
So
that's a lot of water.
Okay, so you're saying the gallons were adjusted?
Yes.
Yeah, it says monthly.
Yeah. Oh, no, I know it's, quarterly and monthly, yeah.
I think the mindset was that if you're going to use that much water, you're going to pay.
Yeah.
Because we want them not to use that much water.
Right. So we're talking a 12% increase for tier 2, but then we're talking a 69% increase for tier 3.
Be an example of somebody using that tier 3. Would it be somebody putting in a new lawn, or would it be somebody that's, got a 2-acre garden or something?
It could be, or it could be a large lot that has irrigation on their entire lot. We had an individual, I think back in 2023 in the Trillium neighborhood, who used nearly 500,000 gallons in a quarter just watering his lawn. So
Is that Warren?
no, but so it can happen. It can happen pretty easily if you don't monitor and watch it. And I think what Councilmember Refkin was saying is we want people to do that just so we can, make our investment in the water plant last as long as we can to try to change those habits.
So it'd be a pretty small number of people that, and it would be an issue for them pretty quickly, that they needed to deal with.
Yeah, and I would say Q3 is obviously our most, heavy used quarter.
Because of irrigation.
And that's what really drives those numbers up. And we've seen, since we've been monitoring that monthly Q3, that the number of people that are above 100,000 gallons a quarter, or they're trending towards that, has really dropped off significantly. We have had some more rainfall.
But what about 24,000 gallons?
So 0 to 24,000 for the quarter.
Right.
I'd say that
for monthly. I'm sorry, monthly.
Oh, for monthly. So that would put you at about 75,000 a quarter. I'd say 90% of the people are below that.
How much of a leeway would we have, if it's a year where there's a lot of rain, are we still going to cover our costs
We will, yeah, yeah. So there's a kind of a contingency built into these rates when we plug these numbers into the kind of utility rate calculator that we had help from DDA, David Drown and Associates, to plug those numbers in. These numbers will generate enough revenue on a dry year. And what that means is that each year we're going to look at it, see where we're at for fund balance in the water fund, and then we can adjust those rates accordingly. Because we're still looking at probably a needed 20% increase for 2027 rates as well. So it's not like a one-time thing. It's kind of a rollout over 5 years where they're going to be a little bit more exaggerated just because of the bond payment that's required for the plant.
Does it, to me, this is just me, on the monthly rate, if you did tier 1 at 5% and tier 2 at 10%, and then you did a little bit less or whatever.
The other reason that it's such a big jump is 69% is we didn't have 4 tiers before, so we had to
Right.
create another one. So that's why you're seeing the huge jump between 2 and 3, because 2 used to be bigger and 3. So like that's the
Right, we
percentage.
used to have like up to 62,000 or
Yeah.
something it was for tier
Yeah.
3.
Because the amount per gallon for the third tier was, what was that last?
I think it was for the fourth,
The
for
third
third tier
tier.
was over 62,000 or 69,000.
65,000, I think.
65, okay.
No, I meant the dollar. Do you
Oh,
remember?
the
Oh,
dollar.
dollar amount
Was it like $15 or something like that?
I could look that up.
for tier 3.
Oh, here.
The other thing I will note
So it was
is,
$14 for tier 3 last time. So like the tier number, the dollar amount is actually going down, and then tier 4 is where the huge jump comes in.
Okay,
and I will note the kind of talking with AE2S about utility rate best practices, they maybe have mentioned this if you remember, is generally each tier should be 1.5 times the previous tier. So this follows that exactly. So tier 2 is 1.5 times tier 1 and so on.
well,
and so
tier
forth.
3 is more.
Oh, tier 3 is 1.5 times tier 2.
You mean the volume?
Oh, you,
The dollar
the
amount.
dollar amount,
Yeah,
the dollar amount.
Yeah,
Oh,
the
okay.
volumes
I
are.
thought you meant the increase.
No.
I think if you didn't see the percentage next to it, if you look at just the numbers, the 6 to 9 to 13.5 to 20, the dollar amounts make sense. It's just seeing that 69%
Yeah, yeah.
that's
Right,
causing concern.
Yeah, okay.
okay.
But again,
Did you run the numbers just to see what an average kind of bill would look like? I mean, how much of an increase are we looking at? I'm just curious. Do we know?
I think the big increase is going to come from the monthly rate. Because I mean, so for 0 to 25,000 gallons a quarter, it was $5.76, and now it's $6. So it's not, like the first tier
Mhm.
rate is not that
Right.
much different.
Right, that's what I'm saying, it's
Yeah.
only
So
4%.
for the average user who's not watering their yard,
Mhm.
they're not going to notice a huge change on the dollars per gallon. They're going to see it on the base
On the
rate,
base rate, right,
which is what we want to make sure we have enough money.
right,
if it's
exactly.
dry.
No, exactly, no, I get that.
I don't know if you have a.
Brian?
I do. I mean, it's, so for Minnetrista, the average bill is about $155 if you average it out throughout the year, per quarter.
Not per quarter, per month.
Let me just double check.
It has to
this.
be per month.
I assume we would actually see some higher water bills because I know, like for this summer, one of the summers I was here, we had a really dry month, so had to water a lot and then basically made up for it the rest of the summer. So with a monthly one, we'll probably see,
Yeah,
give us a little more.
Mhm.
I know a couple of years ago too, there was a Metro Council grant for irrigation controller updates.
yeah, they only come out so often.
We're on the list for that.
Okay. Because I'm sure the interest in that is probably going to increase with these.
What is it, every 2 years or 3 years?
It's every 3 years, and
Okay.
I think the next cycle is 2026. So they know that we're interested in applying for that, and we will.
We
So we-
didn't find out about it until it was too late and then the money was already gone.
Yep.
So, but yeah,
Um,
but that's a good point. We'll keep,
So if you use 8,800 gallons a month, which is what the average is throughout the year for Minnetrista residents, your quarterly bill would be just under $200 and your monthly bill would be like $65
Okay.
under the current structure.
okay,
Under the new structure, that would go up about 25%.
okay. So 65, so under 100 still.
Per month, yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Yep, yeah, it'd
okay.
be about $90.
Okay,
$90. So,
Okay.
and the monthly charge, we've kind of looked into this as far as what other communities go, if you want to talk about that. The $35 is not outside of like the norm. It's within the range of what other communities charge when they go to monthly. It's probably on the higher end, but again,
But
it's
I look at
expected.
our gas bill, if you look at your gas bill or your electric bill, there's a base rate. And I think I don't know what they are. It depends on where you get your electricity from, but they can be, yeah. So I recently read in the paper, whether this is correct or not, that Orono is raising their rates by 10%. So I don't know if that's across the board or whatever, but also for future infrastructure needs. So, all right.
I've got a question. Jasper, why is it we don't offer the second meter if you're going to let the water run through your grass opposed to going, down the drain?
Yep. So the Met Council doesn't like that model. I think we have to justify it if we do. So
Well, I can tell you that for me, I saved $400 by putting in that. So after the first year, I save $400 every year.
is that in Mound or, okay. So in Minnetrista, we have, it's all tied to sewer rates, and because we have like a flat fee for sewer,
Mhm.
you won't get a discount. For communities that charge your sewer rate based on your usage, that's where the second meter comes in handy. For us, you're going to pay the same amount every quarter, no matter what, for sewer, regardless of your usage.
So that's a benefit to us, I think.
I'd say it's a benefit to most, especially to the high users.
High users.
You
right?
know, so I know Mound, for example, does it sewer based on usage. I know Waconia does it based on
That's because
usage.
everybody has sewer and water, whereas here we don't. Some people have sewer, but not water.
Got it.
So it wouldn't necessarily be a big benefit
Okay, thank you.
to Minnetrista.
I just needed
residents.
to know how to answer that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, so
I just have a question. So tier 3 goes to 72,000, and then tier 4 is greater than 72,001. It's supposed to be 72,000
Sure, yeah.
on both of those? Okay.
Yep.
okay, other questions? Okay, so brace yourself.
So are you guys okay with the residential, the way it's kind of structured in here? And then what about commercial?
Yeah, so what are normal commercial volumes? Where would they?
It varies a lot. We have some really small commercial users and we have some, a little bit more significant ones, but at the end of the day,
No, they're not on.
They're not?
No, it's basically the
Which ones?
school.
schools are number one.
Yeah, and then the grocery store, Thaler, the apartments, and then a bunch of smaller
And
businesses.
then
And
small
what
business.
tier would they be in roughly? Is it?
Most of them, based on the spreadsheet Jasper sent me, all the businesses will fall in the first category for all the small businesses, but they won't have an issue. Mac and Thunes pending, they're right on the cusp. Some quarters they use like 400,000 gallons. The quarter 1 and quarter 2, they use like 200,000. So they'd be in the first tier for some and then moving up for the others. Thaler, the winter months, they'll be right on the cusp of tier 1 and mid tier 2. Summer months, they would be in tier 1. Apartments are just high pretty much all the time. They'll be in the top, the high tier.
But then that's spread out over all of the units in the apartment building. I mean, I'm assuming, I don't know how they do it, but
Yeah,
They just pay a
Well-
flat rate per month,
Yeah.
I'm assuming, and
it's up to them how they charge their residents, but they
Right.
get the bill from us and they pay us directly for all of the usage.
okay.
And then-
Much impact, really.
and then all the school accounts except for one, first tier, and the one says the high school, but I don't know if that's like the swimming pool, high school, or which account it is. That one quarterly is about 400,000, so they'll be in the
Top tier,
top tier or
Top
third tier
two.
pending.
or sorry, tier.
They're the third or the
Tier 2.
fourth pending how the breakup
Yeah.
per month goes. So most will be not impacted too much.
Oh, good. Thank you.
It was a very helpful spreadsheet.
Okay, any other questions?
Just to summarize that, so the message I'm hearing is that because of the limited number of commercial accounts, that it's not really, juice isn't worth the squeeze to
No.
charge.
I know that,
Right.
yeah, there's been talks about increasing the base rate to some other number, but it really has no impact on very little impact on the revenue that it generates.
In apartment buildings, is the water included, or do the residents pay separate? They don't pay separate.
They don't pay separate to us. I'm not sure how they do it, but we send the apartment building owner or the manager one bill based on 1 meter. So one base rate plus they get charged the residential rate. So they get charged a big usage rate. So that was kind of we had this discussion about how, when we first got the apartments, we kind of use both options, like they could be commercial or they could be residential.
Mhm.
And because they only have 1 meter on the whole building, for the whole building, they're falling underneath the residential ones. They're getting that base rate, but they have a large usage. It's kind of how it comes out. So it was about the same amount of revenue generated, but I think because there's only one meter, we went down that route of residential. So we can look at that in the future if we have more apartments, but I think we did some calculations, if I remember back, and it was a reasonable amount for each apartment based on what we thought they were going to use.
Thank you.
And we haven't gotten, I don't think, any complaints from them about their bills. So
Do we know what their bills have been? Does the spreadsheet show?
Not the version I got.
yeah, I'm not
I just
exactly
have
sure of the
usage
total.
amounts.
Curious.
A lot of
Okay.
times it is peanut buttered across. I know when I lived in lofts, we didn't pay separate. It was just rolled into our HOA fees.
Yeah, right. Okay. All right. So are we okay with this?
Yeah.
I guess
That's
so.
what it is.
All right. All right. So
Okay,
you-
so in the fee schedule that you'll see on December 8th, we'll have the quarterly in there. I'll talk to Brian about maybe putting the monthly in there and just having, dates that they're effective. That might get confusing for people pulling up so we might just
maybe just put in the quarterly.
Yeah.
quarterly and then we'll amend it again like
Yeah.
in May
Yeah,
or
right.
something like that. Okay, that sounds good.
Okay. And then pay plan next, is that Paula or?
Yeah, I mean, I can give it just a brief intro. I mean,
Okay.
and then Paula can talk about it. Give me 1 second.
Okay.
here. But essentially what we have is a continuation of our October, I think, 6th discussion. It's been to Personnel Committee one time in between there. I've, talked to Personnel Committee members individually, just it was hard to get a second meeting in there. So basically what you have in here is just a lot of background information about pay plans. If you want to go into detail or ask questions, Paula can definitely give an update on that. And then there's a bunch of different options with a whole bunch of information about a pay plan that Councilmember Refkin kind of developed. And I looked at the costs and plugged all those numbers in to figure out what the costs and implementation costs of those things are. So I'm not sure.
Well, let's have Paula give our 101. So, and I asked staff to do this because it's very confusing if you haven't done this before, because there's the steps and then there's the grades and then there's this state statutes and so on. So I thought maybe if Paula could just give us a quick overview, kind of a pay plan 101.
Sure.
So,
I did a real quick, so if you guys have questions, please stop me while I'm going, but compensation programs start, you look at 3 parts when you're doing this. You're looking at the pay level, the pay structure, and the pay method. We've talked about pay equity quite a bit. This is a law that went into effect in 1983 or 4. It's to make sure that male and female employees are being paid if they're doing close to the same amount of work or same type of work, they're getting paid equally. We go through our pay equity. You have to do a report every 3 years. We have been passing that. We did that a few years ago. I don't have that date in front of me, sorry, but we did it about 2 years ago. I think we're due, or maybe we're due to do it soon, within the next year. And we did pass that pay equity. We did pass that. I have had a few questions of what happens if we're not in compliance, if we don't pass that pay equity. We do get a reduction in state aid, or we get fined $100 a day, whichever is higher. So there is issues if we do not pass our pay equity.
but when you say $100 a day, from what day until when? I mean, when is it effective?
It doesn't specify. I would say from the date that we submitted our report,
Mhm.
and we were found that we were not in compliance,
Okay,
and then from that date on.
okay.
Yeah.
It could add up.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Perfect. When we look into job creation, we look into a bunch of things. When we're creating a new job description, we're looking for what the purpose of the job is. What are the essential functions that this person would be doing? What criteria will they be judged? So how do we know that they are meeting expectations of the job duties? What are the minimum requirements and what are the required requirements of past job duties, past school, education, that sort of thing? We have the minimum and required. We talk about who the employee reports to. Is this a supervisor position? Is this not a supervisor position? Will the position be exempt or non-exempt? So there are quite a few steps that we look into when we are creating a new job. So those steps that we're looking into will actually.
And Paula, just real quick.
Yeah.
Also, if we're revising a position,
Yep.
we would use the same criteria. Okay,
Correct.
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for clarifying. So we look at all those steps of that job description and we do a job evaluation and job class. So job evaluations can be done a few different ways. There is a state job match system that you can take all the job duties and go into the state system and do your match. It can be a little bit cumbersome because there's not always, when you're looking into the state job match, there's not administrative services coordinator. Like you can't, it's not specific. So you look into the duties that this position is doing, you figure out the percentage. So be, working the front desk, answering the phones, that sort of thing. You break it up and you figure out through that state job match. The city of Minnetrista does not use that. We use a third-party consultant, Employers Association job evaluation system. So they are the ones that will go through our job descriptions and figure out that the classification for each job. And then based on what that evaluation comes up to, that's where we put it into our comp plan or pay plan, sorry.
So does that then give you the grade at which they start, basically?
Yep, that will
So
give you
that's,
the grade.
if you will, that's the far left-hand column. Okay.
Correct, yep.
Thank you.
There are different types of pay plans, traditional step plans, like what the city of Minnetrista has now, what we're looking at. So that is employees move through a assigned pay range by these established steps. Typically, they're about 10 to 12 steps, can be higher. Average step is between 2 to 5%, which is the average. Steps are based on longevity with the city. So what we've been working on now, so the longer you've been with the city is typically the higher step that you're at. The advantage of a step plan is the predictability. So employees can actually look at this step plan and know, all right, I started at step 1. If I'm planning something 3 years down the road, I could probably be at step 2 or 3. Like an employee can look at that step plan and plan budget for the future. A disadvantage of a step plan is if it's based on longevity, there's not a lot to motivate employees to perform at higher levels. Something that has been noticed and not necessarily here, but as you're going through. As we go through market comparisons, we want to make sure we have set goals for our comp plan or our pay plan. Sorry, I use different terms, so stop me. You need to set goals as a council. And I don't know if back in 2022, when all of this was approved, if those goals were set. Is it staff retention that we're looking for? Is it budget savings? Is it, there's all different types of reasons to have a comp plan, but typically when these are set, that is what you watch, as you're doing your pay plans.
One of the biggest goals was staff retention at that time.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Good. Once the classification, the scale has been set, that's from the development job descriptions and the assigned points, the steps will be put into that comp plan. So once all of those steps have gone, that's where we place that employee within the comp plan or the pay plan. It's important to remember to not look at a specific employee. We're looking at a job description to fit within a pay plan. Instead of talking about employee X dollar amounts, we want to look at that job description and where they fit within the pay plan. And I don't have a lot more to say. That's pretty much the end of it. I do, going through trainings, meetings and peer groups, it's easy to look at numbers, percentages and steps, but you need to remember there's employees behind there too. So we need to keep morale up with employees. When these are changing quite a bit, there's, a little uncertainty. So we should watch that as well. Any questions for me? That was very quick, so.
That's very good, though. Very good.
Okay.
I did have a question. How does, if somebody changes positions, how do the steps work? Do they go back to one or?
Sure. If they actually change a position, that will go into the job description. So there'll be a new job description, and that would tell you which step to go into. That would happen talking with the supervisor, HR, that's decided what step. So if they've had a lot of experience, have been doing really well, not always in step one, but it can be step one, or it could be higher too.
Okay, thank you.
I'll note in, if I may, in our police union contracts that we have now, they have a minimum increase for promotion in there. I think it's 5%. So depending on how that shakes out with whatever grade they're going into, let's say from an officer to a sergeant, they have a minimum of 5. We generally have been around 10% is what promotions generally are, but it's all dependent on what they were previously paid, where they're going, and a bunch of other factors. But it's things that get weighed in before we would make a recommendation or discuss that with the personnel committee.
But this is different because this is non-union that we're talking about.
Yeah.
Unions are kind of all set for this 2026 year.
Yeah.
That will be a whole nother discussion next year. So these are non-union things. So then in your packet, there were 3 different plans, right? 3 different options. There's actually a 4, if you will. So there's actually the 3 options that were in your packet.
Yep.
And then the other one is status quo. And then the only thing I would say is in the packet, the 3 different options, it didn't give a COLA or not. Oh yeah, it gave COLAs.
Yeah, if I may. So the one with the 4% COLA, the header had 3.5 on there twice. I just want to, if somebody caught that, we caught that. I have it updated now, but essentially there's the grid plan of 13 grades by 15 steps with 2% at each step. That's what Councilmember Refkin came up with, and we've discussed, and it is pay equity compliant. It will work in that sense for sure. The one piece is the COLA that's attached to that. So what that means is from 2025 to 2026, what's the COLA that City Council would want to, if they choose to go down this route of placement in this plan, what COLA do you want to have that's appropriate for the employees? I kind of did a breakdown of 3 different options, 3%, 3.5, and 4, and then compared that to the 2026 current plan that we have with a 3% COLA. I know that there was discussion about a 2% COLA on the 6th. There's been a lot of discussions between now and then too. So we just use that as the baseline, but we can look at it either way.
Well, so here's just a comment, and of course, Kathleen, if you want to weigh in. What I'm not comfortable with is there were a couple of I'm fine with the 13 steps and 15 or whatever, 13 grades, 15 steps. I'm fine with that. Because if it's compliant, then we're good there. But what I don't like is depending on the COLA, some are going to lose out, and that's not good for morale. So there in option number 1 or 2, it was like there were 10 employees or 11 employees that would make less. The remainder would make more. I don't think that that's an equitable and fair thing. So it's not until you get to the 4% COLA that it pretty much is everybody is equal. There might be 1 or 2 just tiny bit less. So I think we need to look at what's fair and equitable. If we were an organization that had 200 or 300 employees, that'd be one thing, but this is a small group of individuals. It's not that they're you have to take the public works out because they're union, to take the police out because they're union. We have a small group of people and they all talk. And I don't think it would be fair to say, well, okay, this person is going to get a lot more, and this person is going to get less. With the 4% and this 13, 15 chart, then it will be pretty much equal. That's kind of my take on it, because I think we need to also think about employee morale and employee relations with the council as well.
Not disputing any of that. Fair and equitable is everyone getting the same percentage, which no matter what the COLA we do is, everyone will get the same amount. Comparing it to the current pay plan and what someone might get in 2026 is not necessarily 100% accurate, because there's no guaranteed anything for 2026. So the difference between the current pay plan and what is anticipated to get is essentially what the column is. And yes, some people will lose X amount of money, but everyone would get the same percentage. So just clarifying that, like
Percentage,
can
but
look
not
at-
dollar amount. So,
well,
yeah.
yes.
I mean,
But that's because of how the pay plan currently is set up. So that's why. It's because the steps are different percentages. This levels them all.
I still like the 4%.
I told Jasper which 3 percentages to put. I'm not, I literally gave him and Paula like the options. I'm not, does anyone have any questions about the pay plan as it was created? I will leave the COLA discussion for
I have a
others.
illuminating question for me at least. What is the percentage growth rate of population in Minnetrista?
That would be a David question.
That's a good
I mean,
pace.
yeah.
I mean,
We're averaging what, averaging about 100 new homes a year.
We have been, yeah.
So it's 3.5, 2.5, let's say 3 people, so 300
Okay.
population.
Because I will preface this by saying I absolutely appreciate everybody's hard work, and this isn't, and I know this discussion is not a discussion of the moral relevance of your jobs, because everybody on the city staff is frankly pretty awesome. But when I look at it, I see you have to think about the taxpayers. And so we're looking at a lot of these are like 7% raises plus. And I know I just might be a crappy employee, but I've never gotten a 7.5% raise without getting a promotion or changing jobs. That said, I do want to recognize that obviously if our population is growing, the job is expanding every year too. So I just wanted to give that at least the context that's going on in my head as we're talking about this.
We're also comparing it to other communities of similar size and in the area. So, and that's, I think, was in our packet in October, whereas and then the other thing we compared is the pay plans itself. And so we're right in, I mean, they all do the grades and the steps, and they all do the, and they're all within that 4 to 6%, actually 4 to, what was it, the range?
and yeah, I mean,
4
I
to
think
8,
the highest was 8.5.
and that was
total.
kind of an outlier, but anywhere 4 to 5 or 4 to 6% is my recollection was pretty much the norm.
Yeah, and just more metrics. I know there's a lot of numbers being thrown at you, but since the pay plan's been implemented, the cost of the average increase for each employee, like the total cost of payroll when you take out the positions that we added, or you put those in there as they kind of grow into the position, is like 5.6%. So we kind of thought it'd be between 5.5 to 6, but what we've actually seen is like 5.6. Granted, there's some bigger numbers in here, and there's movement, people leave, rehiring, things like that, but that's what we've seen statistically. It'll probably be with the pay plan, and we haven't gotten into details about just how this would roll out, but it'd be about the same, maybe a little bit higher than that is what we'd anticipate year to year, depending on personnel turnover, that type of thing.
But I think to your point, Brian, and I think Kathleen mentioned this too in the October meeting, is I think we need to take a look at this next year as well, because what's driving this is the market. That's the big driver here, because when we have employees that are offered more money, a lot more money than what we're paying them, and we want to retain them, then we have to kind of come up to that level. And that's what happened in 22. That's why we made that a fairly huge adjustment. But what we'll have to do is we have to keep an eye on the market to make sure that we're competitive and that we're offering things so that our employees don't leave. But the other thing to keep in mind is when we hire new people, let's say David were to leave, David, don't you dare. We would have to hire somebody very similar to David, and it would probably cost us as much or more.
Not
So-
necessarily, because based for David's position in general, he's paid very, very well compared to the market. So, I mean, we want to keep all employees, but if some town wants to give, I'm going to keep using David as an example, if they want to pay him, $30,000 more, like that's not
Yeah,
going to
that's-
happen.
No, I agree. I mean, that maybe was a bit bad example, but we'll take some other people in our pay scale. And if we don't stay up with the market, then they may go, and there's jobs out there. That's the thing, and we want to keep the really good ones that
Which
we have.
all three options, the 3.5, or 4%, all stay with the market. Nobody is going to be suddenly underpaid in the market. That is not in here. It's not there.
Well, one of the issues here is, when you think about it, probably in your own experience and work, the long-term employees that are very valued, you can't put a price on it at some point, I mean, and that was the trouble with just kind of across the board, reducing the cost of living increase or the market adjustment, that it would hit them more because they wouldn't have any steps and, left. And so Kathleen worked out an idea of, well, we could expand the steps from 10 to 15 so that then they have more of a runway to keep, encouraging and incenting them, which was really important to me. So I like that part of it. When you look at this, though, it really begs the question of, well, maybe we should just leave it where it is for 2026, because other than option one, these others cost more money, and 2000, I know you want to settle this. 2026 gives us a little more room for all of us to consider this very carefully, because it is a big issue. And so in my mind, I think taking the ideas that you've developed here that look really great, but keeping in mind to see what happens next year, as we all acknowledge could change. I just think that'd be the way to go. And I like the idea of expanding the steps and expanding the categories so that we give more runway to these long-term, valued leaders.
So you're saying you're advocating for status quo for
That's
2026?
for this year, but then next year.
And you like the
Yeah, I like-
12 or 13, 15? Okay.
Claudia?
Good. I agree with Peter.
Okay.
I do like the expansion of the steps and the categories. I think that's a more equitable way to do it. Honestly, I do feel like it's a little late in the game, but I just got to rip the Band-Aid off and do something now rather than later.
So what would your preference be?
As far as which option?
Yeah, so you have basically 4: status quo, option 1, 2, or 3.
Which options which?
So option 1 would be, they're all the same steps.
Yes.
right? They're all the same steps. It's just the COLA is different. So they're option 1, the COLA is
3%,
3%.
which gives an average increase to
Page-
employees of
page-
5.7%.
Page 10, they start on.
Okay.
Then the 3.5 gives the average employees a 6.2% increase, and 4% COLA gives the employees an average of a 6.7% increase.
Keep in mind, 1 and 2, you're going to have some disgruntled, you're going to have some, how do you say?
And it's going to cost us more.
And it's going to cost us a little bit more,
Well, one doesn't cost
No.
more, one costs less. 2 isn't bad. 3 with the 4%, where everyone gets a 6.7% increase, costs about 20 grand more. But
Right.
I also have a solution for that. If
20?
we eliminate the miscellaneous category that's on all the budgets, the money will be there.
We've talked about and I wasn't clear in my little spreadsheets here, the 19, like on option 4, the 19,182, that's the total implementation cost of just the salary part. The 11,000 is the estimated general fund levy impact. So that's the, we
Because the other comes out of
enterprise,
enterprise funds.
yeah,
So it'd be an 11.5 impact,
roughly, yeah.
general levy.
Yeah, nominally, I'm leaning towards option 2. The CPIU change for the last 12 months was 2.9%. So that's still a slightly above inflation raise. And so I think that's getting a little bit of a premium given that we're kind of in the 11th hour
Okay,
talking about it.
all right. And Kathleen?
I'm fine with option 1, 2, or 3. I don't, to Peter and Claudius, I don't see the point in delaying this another 5 months or 2 months or whatever. Like, nothing's going to change. I have put so many hours into trying to find a pay plan that works for everybody, that doesn't make anyone have less money. And I know it seems like you're losing money, but you're not, because if you look at the pay plan as a whole, the end number is bigger.
Right.
Like, you're going to make more money. And there's a longer runway. And I know there's a worry that next
So
year.
you're okay with which one?
Yes, it doesn't matter, whatever the council majority
Well,
is. I'm just opposed to leaving the status quo.
All right, so here's where I'm going to come from. I would like to do option 3, 4%. If you and Brian would agree with me, then we have a go. If not, I'm going to have to vote with status quo. There's where I'm at. So Brian, Kathleen, are you guys going to go with the 4%? And give Kathleen credit for all the work she's done. Come on, guys, work with me here. It's $11,000. We can take it out of our contingency fund that we have budgeted. We have $50,000 in our contingency fund, so it's a little bit more. I think we're going to go away with very happy employees. I think the morale will be great. I think the relationship between the council and employees will be great. I'm looking at the bigger picture, and we can take a look at this next year. Maybe next year, the COLA is going to be 2%. I mean, I think we need to make it clear that we're going to take a look at this in 2026, and there may not be such a big increase next year. So will you go with me?
You're very persuasive, Madam Mayor. I will go with, I can support option 3.
Okay.
Claudia, look like you're in deep thought.
But we have 3 votes already.
Yeah, I mean,
Come
why
on.
not?
All right.
All right. Kathleen, thank you for your work.
Okay.
Yeah, I know how much work she's
I
put
know how
in.
much.
So we have to give her some credit here.
Next year, we can look at.
We can look
Well,
at this
The
again.
plan is next year at some, I don't know, July, so there's plenty of room for discussion. The personnel committee will look at the market, will look at what the market is doing
Exactly.
locally and everything and what's happening, and then adjust the COLA/market adjustment for the following year. And that will be the plan. The personnel committee will have one meeting, discuss it, and then that will come to council. That will be it. And I have no intention of ever spending this much time on a pay plan again in my
Understand.
entire life.
Just we're raising prices all over the place and
So I
figuring out raises.
So I think we're good on option number 3 with the 4% COLA, and you can bring it back under consent agenda or under what?
So what you'll see on the 8th is there's a policy. It's buried in this packet with, a bunch of information. It's called the non-union employee pay plan policy. It was adopted June 6, 2022. What we'll do is we'll update this with the new pay table. And I think that would be about it that's in here. I'd probably have to update, I'll look at it, but we'll update the step increases. So just to be clear, what'll happen in 2026, there'll be an adjustment, 4% placed in the pay plan. And then there won't be a step in 2026. And that's kind of the justification, I think, for the 4% cost of living adjustment, is that step is going to go away. It's kind of a wash. It's kind of what it comes out to be compared to what we currently have. But then in 2027, that step and that COLA adjustment would happen on January 1, 2027. So whatever the personnel committee we talk about this like in July for the prelim levy, we would then plug a number in, whatever that is, in the budget. And then we kind of like this, we'd have until December to actually finalize it. So what you'll see in the budget document, you'll have, we'll make the update and the change. You'll have this pay plan policy in there. If you want it on consent, we can put it on consent. Otherwise, we can put it on business. I'll just take direction from the group, but it'll essentially reflect what we've talked about here.
Okay.
So that's what you'll see.
Yeah.
I just want to know if you want it on consent or on
I think
business.
consent is fine.
Consent is fine.
I think it's fine.
All right.
All right. So next we have park dedication and tree replacement discussion.
Yeah, quickly, Madam Mayor, members of council, as we do every year, we do a annual park review with staff, and then we take that to the Park Commission for a recommendation to you for what to do for next year for park improvements. We don't have a lot, but you can see in the staff report, we did earmark the commission, as we've done historically, we did earmark $50,000 for Lyle Park. As you know, we still don't have a playground there. So that's just earmarked for that. We've got Linden Park, Perennial Park, with some re-roof pavilions in each of those parks. And then also there's some trail work and also replacing of the basketball court and the backboards in Linden Park. And then there's some miscellaneous park maintenance in a number of parks listed there. Merge Marsh, Gene Lanier, North and Slow Creek Park. There's a number of them there. And that's mostly trail type maintenance. Is that correct, Gary, that we're looking at doing there? Is what's being slated. I think some concrete work and some parking lots might be some of it as well. So not a huge number, but just things that definitely need attention. The commission did review this last month, and this is their recommendation to the city council to move forward for 2026.
Any questions?
No, I was at the parks meeting. They were fine with it all. The big thing was they wanted to push to get Lyle Park done. Obviously, there's some newer park members. So we discussed how there's no money coming into the parks fund. So using it all in Lyle Park is probably not the best option. But otherwise they were fine. The big takeaway, which I already talked to Jasper and
Yeah.
Paul about, was to update the packet. So it's more accurate.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
To update this park packet. So it's more accurate with pictures and all of the work that's been done and whatnot.
We've already
yeah.
got pictures of all the
Yeah,
parks already.
yeah.
So yep, we're working on it. Yep.
And I was talking to staff earlier too, just about grants that are available. So we'll have to keep an eye on those too. And then I just want to say to Gary and your crew, thank you for finishing that trail. I did get an email from one of our residents that was so excited that the sidewalk was finished and now connects to the Dakota Rail Trail. Great job. Thank you very much. So, all right. Next then, there's no other questions. We have the property discussion regarding Hunters and Bosma property.
Yes, Madam Mayor, members of council, this is kind of a group effort. I'll kind of lead the charge on this a little bit, but there's a bunch of moving parts here. Some are related to the police department, some are related to community development. And then some, we have Sarah here as well to answer any legal questions. But essentially what we have going on in the packet, you can kind of follow along, is that we have two properties that we received complaints about. We've evaluated those properties. Those properties have some issues with criminal complaints. So there's two components here I think everybody has to be aware of. There's the criminal side and then there's the civil side. So Craig's team has been working on the criminal complaints and going that route. And you know, one of the properties has been more receptive than the other. So one of them has received some criminal complaints, the other hasn't, because they're actually making some progress on their property, and that's what we want to see, right? We want to see some progress that's being made. So that's the criminal side, and those are mostly, I don't know, Craig, if you can, you know, they're generally related to unlicensed vehicles and other equipment and things like that. I don't know if you can generalize what those complaints are.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, members of council, that's a good way to say it, generalized. So when you go on a property like this, it's really hard to articulate, okay, that pile of junk is a count and this pile over here is 2 counts. So ultimately what our prosecutor decided to do was just essentially say the vehicles are a count, the piles of junk are a count. Basically kind of broke it down into the different elements of our ordinance instead of saying each particular items account, because to prove that in court's impossible, and the judges will.
Plus, there's a lot of cars.
Yes, very much.
All Okay.
Yeah, so that's the criminal side. That's kind of moving forward on one. But the outcome of that is maybe a fine, right? Like a small fine, they could pay that fine. And then there's this double jeopardy clause. If that is still there, you can't charge them again. So it's a one and done kind of thing. If there's new things that are brought in, new violations, then you can charge that. But that really takes a lot of effort to like inventory what they have there, see what the changes are. So the criminal piece is moving forward. The civil piece, if there is a desire to proceed with this on a nuisance level, that's where the city can come in and declare property nuisance, and that's a nuisance violation, and there's a process to abate that nuisance. So letters were sent out to both of these properties on the civil side. There's 3 main areas of our city code that are generally in violation: storage of materials, home occupations, and then the nuisance side of it. In the packet, I included just an air photo of both of the properties. They look somewhat similar. But so the main goal of the discussion today is we've gotten to this point. We've sent criminal complaints to one of them. We're working with the other one to remove the items. I guess we need to have a discussion of what are the next steps? What do we want to do? And how do we want to proceed? Because generally we've sent letters in the past. We've sent a lot of letters, but when it comes to actually enforcing it and maybe declaring it a nuisance and abating that nuisance, very rare that we actually go through that because of the costs, I believe. I'm not entirely sure. But some of these, if we were to declare, let's say 9550 West Hill Road a nuisance, and then we would have to abate that nuisance, that would mean we would go in and we would remove all that material on our, we would then be able to assess that back to that property owner, and then that would go on their tax roll. And if they wouldn't pay that assessed value or assessed amount, then that potentially could hit tax forfeiture, and then that they would lose that place and it would go to a county auction or something. And this process takes quite a while to actually do. I think it's probably 2 to 3 years in that neighborhood if we would start abatement, because there would likely be some appeals and a process that we would have to follow. So before we go down that route, and just as a note, I've talked to there's actually a hauler, a refuse or junk hauler is what I forget their junk master or something like that. They actually live in town, or they have a place in town. They just happened to be in City Hall, and I showed them these properties. I'm like, well, what is it? What would it cost? And they had done one, and I know Sarah's group has worked on one of these properties in like Maple Plain. Theirs is a little bit bigger and different, but the estimate for these to abate them would be around $75,000 to $100,000 per parcel. And the other piece that is unknown is if there's any, environmental hazards, soil amendments, things like that would need to be done. So it's a big number. If we start going down this path, we have to almost be committed to doing that and committed to the process. It'll cost legal fees. If we get to the point where we actually have to abate, it'll cost money to abate. So that's where we're at. I'm looking for direction, I guess, on how you want to proceed, because we're kind of at that end of hey, we sent letters. Both parties have acknowledged that they've received the letters for the civil side. One of the parties is working on it. The pace at which I think we had a deadline of October of this year. We kind of gave them a deadline, and there was, some health things that have been occurring and things like that. But they're actually sending me images of things that are being hauled out, So I think we'd hope that it'd be at a quicker pace, but we understand there's other things going on. So any progress is good progress, but that's the direction, or that's what we're seeking direction on, is how you'd like to proceed, especially with the one property that has been not necessarily responsive. And that'd be the 9550 West Hill Road property.
Do we know the genesis of this? Are they running like an illegal junk business on their house, on their property, or?
It's unknown for sure. I think there's a lot of scrap metal stuff going on. I know that
9550 West Hill.
At the 9550, I know that's been there for a while. I think 40 plus years, maybe 50 years or so. There's in the 80s, I did a lot of digging into this, and there's records into the 80s of Hennepin County getting involved and talking about environmental hazards, and the property owner actually went to county jail for a small period of time because so there's quite a history here. But what that individual has said is that people just, I think, have become accustomed to dropping things off at their driveway and then they take it, and then they, if the price is right, they're bringing it in to scrap it. So it's essentially a salvage yard that is, it's not allowed in that egg preserve district in that sense. But we have got a complaint and we are complaint-based enforcement. So that's why we're here today.
You mentioned Hennepin County in the past. Can they help with anything now?
Yeah. That too. So I've talked with them and they don't want to have anything to do with this. They basically said we tried. It's a local government unit issue at this time. And, talking about grants, and I've kind of looked at grants and there really isn't anything that's specific to this because there's probably thousands of sites like this in Hennepin County and, tens of thousands throughout the state. There may be, there's brownfield grants if you know what those are, but those are like sites with contaminated soils that have generally a use after the cleanup. It's not just, hey, let's clean it up. It's usually, hey, we're going to do this. There's some environmental hazard. We're going to clean it up. Here's some grant money. Now this next thing that's going to come in here is beneficial to the community in the region. So that's not the case with either of these, just because they're residential or, egg.
Well, we don't know if there's any contamination.
We don't.
Let's talk about one at a time. So let's talk about the 9550 West Hill Road. That's the one that they're not being cooperative or whatever. I mean, they're just saying, go away.
I haven't had any real personal interactions. If you want more details, I think Craig and his team have been out there frequently and can maybe speak to that.
Okay, Craig?
Yeah, Madam Mayor, member of council, they were somewhat helpful in the beginning, but the more start saying, this has got to go, and this has got to go, this has got to go, then it just collapsed and now we're not welcomed out there anymore.
Okay.
Have we ever done an abatement in Minnetrista?
I would defer to, not that I know of, I don't know if we've done anything. I think we just updated our nuisance ordinance to allow us to more easily deal with this. So,
That was a fun process.
Yeah.
but I think
My time.
we do have the tools in place to do it if we want legally.
So scrap companies will just come and pick it up if they get to keep all the scrap, right? They do. Like I checked on it. There's a property in Minnetrista that has, it's like 32 acres and it has something like 32 cars back there in the fields. And they'll come, but they keep, all the scrap. Can't we just say, this sounds easy, but can't we just say they're coming to take all the scrap out of there? Like, how much of it is scrap and how much of it?
Well, but we can't, so if they don't want us on their property, then we have to go through a
They wanna go to
process.
court and go back to jail?
Well,
I don't know.
no.
Maybe that would be an option to say, why don't you just call the scrapyard and have them pick everything up? Start with that.
And I can kind of address that a little bit. I don't know if it'll be that easy because a lot of this stuff isn't as clean as there's a single car sitting here. It's piles of stuff. A little bit harder to actually, I think, gather than to just back a flatbed truck up and pull a car. Because I know what you're talking about where, somebody will pick up a junk car and maybe give you some money, maybe give you a couple $100. But in this case, we would have to look at what it would cost. If it'd be zero, that I'd be surprised, but we could look into that. It's the same company that Junk Masters, that's what they do. They're taking that stuff.
Do they seem like they're willing to just turn that over to
The-
scrappers to take?
The property owners, probably not willingly.
So they'd want to go to court? Do they think that will happen?
I think one of the property owners is here this evening. So let's talk about the Hunter property if we can, because you said that they've been more willing to work with us, and where are we at with that? And can we kind of maybe get that one going, or, where are we at?
Yeah, so I can talk to that a little bit, and there's progress. I think I get about weekly or bi-weekly photos of things that are being taken off the site. So a lot more responsive, and they are communicating with the city. So that's where we're holding the criminal complaint piece because they're actually working with us. And, you know, I think there's a goal, right, to clean up the site, right? And if they're making progress towards that, great. I think what I would like guidance on that is, you know, what are some deadlines, you know, what's our grace, I guess, for letting them do this? Because we have a complaint and we're kind of waiting for a direction from city council as far as how we should proceed.
I wonder, I'm sorry, Jasper.
Yeah.
I wonder, the party that's complaining, maybe they just have a certain area they don't want to look at. I mean, we could make it a little easier on the resident by just going, address this quadrant of your
Well,
property or.
This one, you can see it right from 110. I
No,
mean,
I
everyone
know.
can see it. It's not off in the woods somewhere like.
Okay, well,
Yeah, and it's one of those things, we get the complaint, then we look at the property, and then we have to address all the concerns that violate city code and criminal side. So it's, you know, once you open that box, we're looking at everything at that point.
I don't know what a reasonable time frame is to haul stuff off, and I don't know how long this takes.
It's like a lot.
doesn't take long.
I mean, I don't know.
I mean, yeah, that would be a good question. You know, what would it take to clean it up? I mean, 52 weeks, you figure a couple vehicles, a couple loads of junk a week, 52, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think we'd have to see significant improvement within a few.
It took me a whole summer for my father-in-law's junk property down in southern Minnesota on weekends, a whole summer.
Yeah.
And by comparison to this, was it worse, the same, or? Okay, so if we give like
It's out,
a
in the
6,
middle of rural Minnesota, you know, but he passed away and we had to clean it up and we had equipment, but it was a full summer.
Yeah.
so if we
weekends.
give like a 6-month window, is that realistic,
I
do you
would
think?
think.
Okay,
Mhm.
so give them 6 months. To,
Visible improvement every month.
yes.
Yeah, that's the one issue that, if I may, that we've heard comments from neighbors about the 9550 properties, that it's actually net increasing in volume of stuff.
Going the wrong way.
So, and I don't know if they've actually removed anything of significance. So that's the other, so kind of, I don't know if we look at them as two separate complaints, and, you know, one of them seems to be working with us, one of them doesn't.
Well, I think we need to give both of them the same kind of ultimatum, you know, show a significant improvement within the next 6 months. You know, and we won't pursue a abatement. But if we don't see, I mean, we have pictures here, and if we don't see this cleaned up, especially, as I think Councilmember Lacey suggested, if you don't see an improvement from the road, that makes a huge difference as well. But I think overall, we need to see a significant improvement in the next 6 months.
Is it feasible to clean up during the winter?
I think it's
Yeah, I was
easy.
gonna say July 1st,
I
because that'll
think
give them like,
It's
3
easier in the
months
winter
to do
because
it.
you're,
Ground's frozen, so
Yeah.
I don't know how much the stuff would be frozen into the ground.
well, you yank it out of there. I mean,
I was gonna say.
But
July
let's
1st.
see, but okay, July 1st, that still gives, you know, April, May, June, you know, several months in, and now we don't have any snow and it hasn't been freezing, so there's still time right now before the snow starts to fly. So I would say the same option for both of them. Otherwise, I think we are going to have to look at abatement and taking it to the next step. One of the things that I look at is, what about abutting properties like the one on Hillside? There's abutting properties to this, and it affects their property values too. And, you know, so I think we need to be cognizant of that.
Yeah, I think so too, right? You know, we're right on the edge of the metro, and so we just got to collect some of these things. And I think it's important to be strict on this because it's just gonna
Right.
long-term.
Okay.
So Sarah, is that legally okay for us to give a date and then, okay.
So one thing, I mean, so progress updates are challenging to do from the road. At times you can kind of see some things, but you can't, and the air photos that we get are generally maybe once a year. the 2025 one is up. So the one I think that's in our packet is 2024 or 2024. The 2025 one's almost going to be available. But if we compare, so it'll have to be, I don't know how we'll have to find some metric or some way to look at the site.
Can the property owner give us show us some receipts of, I don't know where they take the junk?
Does someone have a drone like WSB? I know St. Bonnie Fire has a drone, which I believe has a camera on it.
Yeah.
Like, could we use a drone and take our own overhead photos?
We would need consent from the,
Consent or a search warrant, yeah.
Okay.
I was gonna say, if
Well,
this
can we get
is,
consent from the neighboring property?
I'm
Well-
not sure.
No, I mean.
Yeah, no, I know.
If you send the drone up on the neighbor property, you're obviously going to catch the area. I mean, we have property next to that one, so I mean.
We could ask the property owner, say, hey, we're going to give you 6 months. Will you allow us, consent to kind of monitor your progress?
yeah, I
See
feel
what they
like
say.
that's reasonable. Like, hey, we're gonna give you this chance, but you have to consent to monitoring.
Okay,
They probably have to sign something, I believe, I'm guessing.
Madam Mayor, members of council, just one point I want to bring up. In the one property, we have started the criminal process. So if we're all still good with that,
Yes.
we'll see if that provides some remedy for this.
yeah.
Thank you.
And can the city be the complainant for 7501 since we abut their property?
We can be if we want to be. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, so we'll give them until July 1st. We'll try to work out a detail where we can kind of monitor from above and do maybe some snapshots
Okay.
and see if we can get consent to do it. If they don't, I don't know if that changes the timeline for anybody. We'll just say we can't monitor it. We'll try to do it from the road or other public spaces. And then we'll plan on doing an update at the probably first meeting in July or only meeting in July.
Can we get like a, March update if we've heard back or any response in general?
Sure.
Just so we're
Yeah.
not.
Yep.
Can I ask one more question? What about some of these groups that go in and try to help? I mean, my organization does this kind of thing, but inside houses and for elderly people and people that are unable to tackle kind of what seems to be insurmountable projects. Outside's a different thing, but could we reach out? Are they elderly or are they elderly?
I believe the property owner at, on Hillside is elderly, but he has younger kids that are involved in the property.
I'm
So
just
it's-
wondering
I
if
don't
there's
think
some
it's
kind of,
age.
church organization that would send 40 people over there twice to,
But the property owner could reach out.
but maybe they just don't have that. A lot of people just don't know how to do that. Could we, would they want us to inquire for them?
Well, we don't know. One property owner doesn't seem to want to
Chat?
change the operation of what they're doing. So I'd find it hard to believe that they would want to let somebody come on their property and take their stuff voluntarily. So I can look and see if there's something to help out. I just don't know where
I'm just not sure.
to start.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I'll do a little research.
Do they answer the phone when we call them?
Email is pretty reliable.
Good.
Chief?
It would depend on the day. I think at this point, they're not interested in talking to law enforcement. Somebody from the city, they may respond to. But there hasn't been much progress. My guess is they want to retain their property.
Okay. All right. So we'll get some periodic updates. You're going to contact the property owners. We have a deadline of July 1st to have it significantly cleaned up. So, all right.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Next, we're going to move on to our bathymetric survey summary. I think that's Allison.
That is me. Thank you, Mayor Whalen. So as council may recall, quite some time ago, you authorized WSB to perform bathymetric surveys on some properties within the city. The ponds where these were done were identified using the Surface Water Asset Management Program. where it calculates the anticipated sediment load into ponds. And so this is a graphic showing the locations of the ponds that were surveyed. So going through each pond, I just included in the packet and in summary here in the presentation is findings of the bathymetric survey. So the first one is just off of County Road 110 over near the high school on Langwood. And that's pond P61, and the bathymetric survey indicated that the pond was still functioning. So the recommendation is to do nothing to that pond. So that's good news. That's why we get this additional information.
So remind me again, a swamp score. What is a good swamp
I
score?
believe we did 65 was the cutoff.
Okay.
for that.
If it was 65 or higher,
65 or lower.
it was good.
Bad.
Bad.
But this one is 49, but it's still good.
Correct. And so
Okay.
we'll be updating. I'll check. and
That's
make
why I'm asking. That's why I'm asking.
I had to think about that for a moment, but I believe it was anything under 65.
So under 65, we want to do something, but in this case, we don't.
Correct.
Okay.
It's fine.
Yeah, and so I mean, just to give like a high level generalization of how the program works, it takes what you typically see for, given the area that drains to the pond and what's usually, what kind of sediment load you usually look at. And that's how they develop the score.
Okay.
And so in this instance, there just isn't as much sediment load going in there. Maybe there's a little less area, but it usually has to do with the sediment load coming in here. So that's why we go ahead and do the bathymetric survey as a second step in the process here. So the next two here are over in Hunter's Crest. The outcome of one is to do nothing, but the other one was to excavate 4.7 feet on average with a budget cost of $16,400. And then the next one is over off of Jennings Bay area. And this one had a recommendation to excavate an average of 2.5 feet for an average cost of $20,800. And you'll see some variability in some of the pricing. You know, for example, the last one was 4.7 feet at $16,400, and then here we are at 2.5 at $20,800. There's a couple components to that. One would be the actual area that the pond takes up, but then the other part of it too is accessibility to some
I was
of
going to
these
say access, especially that one is
ponds.
a
Mhm.
little, complicated.
How are we deciding the depth? I mean, should we excavate it deeper so we don't have to do it again
It's a good question. So this is based on the recommendations from the Water Resources Group that performed the survey. If council wants some more detailed information, I can certainly ask them if over excavation is an option. I think there's probably a cost benefit that could be done with that. So depending on what direction the council would like to give, that's certainly something I could follow up with you on.
Gary, do you want to say something?
Normally, it's to the depth of what it was originally constructed to is what it's normally at, so.
Oh, okay.
So that pond's not deep at all then, if that's like not even 3 feet?
It could be, most of them could be. I mean, these are just settlement ponds, so I mean, just to let it, so for that function, so.
Okay.
Sorry. And even if you go deeper, doesn't necessarily mean you gain any storage.
Well, that was
But
gonna be
you
my
would get
question
rid of
then.
more
If,
phosphorus, though, so.
well, and if
For
we
speed.
possibly are putting some more water in that on a different item later, does it make sense to make it deeper?
Yeah.
We could certainly, if that's something the council wants to take a look into, I could get the experts to weigh in on that. I think on a superficial level, we can give some guidance, but I'd certainly turn to the experts to give us guidance on that.
And then just a question.
Mhm.
So Hunter's Crest has an HOA. Jennings Cove, I don't know if they have an HOA that's active, and Palmer Point does have an HOA.
Yeah.
So do we contact them and say, this is what you have to do? And if you don't, then we come in and we do it and assess? I mean, how does? Okay. Oh, come on now.
Wayland Council, those are some of the options that,
Okay.
those are some of the options that
My
staff
neighborhood.
presented.
Okay.
There are a couple different approaches we could take, but we wanted to bring this to council's attention, then get direction on what the next steps are.
Okay, so again, Jennings Cove was probably prior to the, when we started doing the overlays, you know, the stormwater special
Mhm.
assessment overlays. But Palmer Point and Hunter's Crest, they should have,
No,
Hunter's Crest doesn't either, but Palmer Point does.
no,
Really?
no,
When did we start doing it then?
Woodland Cove.
Okay, I thought,
Mm-mm.
okay, I thought we did overlays like for Red Oak,
Woodland Cove, Red Oak.
Red
Orchard
Oak.
Cove,
Orchard Cove.
that's it.
Okay, so then what happens then if they decide not to do it, and do we then, can we still assess them? Or what?
So Mayor Whalen, that's one of the options that we've talked to the city attorney about. There is an option, and I believe it was in chapter 429, where the city could take a look at assessing the costs to do these improvements. It would have to be, there would be a benefit test to that. I talked to some of my colleagues in the Water Resources Division. They're not aware of any communities that have done that. It doesn't mean that isn't something that we could explore, but we always like to look at opportunities of, you know, if someone's done it in the past as a model that we could work off of. So if that's something that the council wants us to explore, we could certainly do that.
Otherwise, it would come out of the stormwater fund.
Correct. So
But then okay, so what's to prevent them from saying, we're not going to do it? Why should we do it? I don't know. I mean, what teeth do we have to make them do it?
Mayor Whalen, to my knowledge, there isn't anything in ordinance that would have any teeth to them to do this. This would simply be, you know, something that we look at from a city standpoint, city asset management standpoint. And if there's an appetite from the council to do an assessment, that's certainly something that we could mention to the HOAs. Otherwise, it's, you know, you'd look at if the city were to do projects and not assess it, then it's a cost that's spread amongst all stormwater fee payers in the city.
Sounds like that's something maybe we need an ordinance on to, is it something we can, after the fact, put in?
So we asked this question to Sarah to kind of talk about what our tools were, and that we can, through some, I don't know, more, I don't know if obscure is the word, but for chapter 429, we're able to assess, but it's under not necessarily a direct connection with the way you'd think it would be. I can't remember off the top of my head what they were, but they kind of were like a little bit different than what we've seen, or that we've used in the past, or that I've ever used. But so there is some mechanism, but it's kind of a little different. What other communities do, we've done a lot of research, and I think Allison's looked into this, David's looked into this, I've looked into this, is they've just utilized the stormwater fund to do these projects, thinking that there's a community benefit to have stormwater. We're on the hook because of our MS4 permit. They're actually, you know, we're on the hook as a city through that permit to make sure that these BMPs are adequate to treat the stormwater. So we're ultimately on the hook. Now, in the case of Woodland Cove, now we have a very clear mechanism, like, hey, if you can't afford to clean these up, like, we're gonna tax you for it. You have a taxing district there. So there's a way to do it. It's I don't know of any other cities that.
Well, the thing is a lot of other cities are 100% developed. What kind of our situation is only 1/3, not even 1/3, maybe about 1/3 of our city is developed. And so it's 1/3 where these stormwater ponds exist. The other portion of our community is still rural, where no ponds exist. And, you know, so it's kind of a conundrum, because we're going to be, all of those people out there are paying for their stormwater. So maybe it's fair, I don't know. I'm just saying, you know, it's a little different than if our entire city was developed and then we went around and and fixed every stormwater pond as need be, you know, because then everybody benefits.
It's no different than going in and fixing 5 homes drainage issues with everybody else's money. I mean, it's the same logic. You're using the big fund to fix small problems. I mean, in my mind, it's the same.
Currently, most of the stormwater fund is used in the rural area for the ditches and
Yeah.
culverts.
Ditching, yeah.
I mean, so
Okay.
Yeah, I
all
mean,
the
I'm,
residential properties are paying for all the improvements that have happened the last, 15 years.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's, I mean,
Okay, fine. I mean, if that's, you know, if, as long as it's spread out and everybody benefits in some manner, then that's
Does
fine,
everyone
but.
really benefit? I mean, what Peter said, maybe
Well-
we need some kind of ordinance. So going forward, way in the future, what if there's an overwhelming number of water issues? We can't, I mean, no one's ever fixed my water issue. I had to pay for it myself.
well, these aren't water issues. These are stormwater ponds that we have to have that were
Right.
mandated to keep functioning. And like going forward, like Woodland Cove, the HOA has to pay for them. So we've fixed the problem going forward on all of them because Woodland Cove has like, what, 30 ponds? Like the HOA has to fix them if something
Right.
goes wrong. So like we fixed it going forward. I think the issue you'd come in like for who to assess in Jennings Cove, it's like, do you assess everyone in Jennings Cove? Just people that backed up to this pond? Like how big of a assessing area are you going to do? I mean, because if I lived in Jennings Cove and was on the water and nowhere near this pond, I'd be like, well, none of my runoff goes there. Like, why am I being assessed for it? And whether or not the whole community benefits the same as a road, right? We all pay into the roads. Your road has, like when your road gets fixed versus when someone else's, it's not necessarily fair. So, I mean, it's no different than doing road projects we have a pool of money and we're fixing the things that are coming up.
Well, we paid to have our road fixed.
Part of it,
Part of it. It was
Yeah.
50%, yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know. I just, what if there's an inordinate amount of water years in a row and there's water? I mean, do we have enough money to solve all those problems?
Well, so this is different than just your standard water runoff. These are ponds that we have to maintain.
But we have a lot,
And we have a lot of ponds.
a lot of them.
There's a lot of ponds, and we're just trying to tick off a few at a time every year. This is what, about 83, 2, 4, 50, 60, this is somewhere around $70,000, $80,000.
Well, and also like, so we've been talking about this the entire time I've been on council. This is the first estimated time of doing this, like spending any money and fixing it. So it's not a yearly thing that we do.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
So
Mayor Whalen and council, Gary and I were just discussing, I don't recall the number off the top of my head, but there is a number certain of these private ponds where we don't have agreements in place to say, where it's unclear who would be responsible for the cost. That's something we can I just don't have it at my fingertips here, but this was years ago when we first started looking to, what's the cutoff score? And I just don't recall off the top of my head how many privately owned storm ponds are out there where there isn't an agreement in place. If that's helpful for the council to make a decision
So
or
can
give
we,
direction.
so the ones that have HOAs like Palmer Point and Hunters, can we fix them and then turn it, like make an agreement with the HOA that they have to fix them going forward? Is that something we could possibly do?
We could try. I mean, if they agree to it or not.
That might, I think maybe what we could do is we could say, this time we're going to fix it. And it should be fixed for the next 10 or 15, I don't know how many years, generally, 10 years, 15, 20?
It was like 20 years old.
Yeah. So then we could say, however, in the future, it is going to be the responsibility of, so we fix each one once where there's no HOA or we don't have an agreement on it. Going forward, the new developments, they always get, we do an overlay. So going forward with new developments, we're covered. But going backwards for the developments that didn't have that overlay, then we would say, this time we're going to fix it, next time it's on your dime. So we do it once, but then I don't know if that would be doable.
Yeah. It's not in perpetuity. It's just,
Yeah.
so we would need some kind of ordinance, wouldn't we, to do that?
would we need an ordinance or how would that work? Sarah, do you know?
Madam Mayor, members of the council, I guess you would probably want an agreement with the HOA so that
Okay.
it documented that, we're going to go ahead and take care of these issues now. We're paying for it, but in the future, it's going to be your responsibility. But what
Okay.
if they come back to us later and want the pond cleaned out and they want us to pay for it? We have documentation that they
Okay.
had agreed that they would do it later.
But what incentive is there for them to make an agreement?
Yeah,
with us?
why wouldn't we just have an ordinance?
Well, we could do a special assessment. See, we could say, okay, well, we'll do a special assessment then for this time. I don't know.
Just don't want to there's nothing in writing now, and so then we
Yeah.
to have a big discussion later. I
Mhm.
think if we preemptively get something going now
Mhm.
for the future, that would be nice.
Mayor Whalen, if I may ask
Yeah.
the city attorney, are there opportunities to get an ordinance, or is a 429 process our only option? I'm not aware of ordinances that can be set up to,
Force them to
Address
pay.
this.
Yeah. So I guess we'd have to look at a 429 then, right? So why don't we do this? I still think we should go and say, we're going to do this the first time. Everybody gets one off, one freebie, so to speak. And then after that, it's your responsibility, but we need an agreement in place. If you don't want to do the agreement, next time it's going to be an assessment.
Do we have the ability to mark up city services? I'm just trying to think how to incent them. Hey, we'll do it, but we're going to charge you cost plus 20%.
We can't make money.
But
Make money.
No, I would say not.
I mean, of course, staff time and all of that has to be included in it. So, but, okay.
so Mayor Whalen, if I may, so my understanding is direction is to proceed with the city project, and in conjunction with that, work with the HOAs, to contact the HOAs, let them know what the direction is, and then to get agreements with the HOAs that in the future they would be responsible for the cost. Is the council does the council want to have those agreements in place before proceeding with the project?
I think so.
Well, I think we have to do the project regardless.
Well, how long do you think it will take to get the agreements, assuming they're cooperative?
Mayor Whalen, Councilmember Refkin, I think that's a HOA dependent question. I think it would depend on what their HOA members are they going to have questions?
I think we should do the project regardless and pursue agreements, kind of simultaneously. And then we should look ahead as well and see what other ones we're going to be doing, maybe in 27, 28 kind of thing. Again, kind of giving the HOAs and whatever owners of the ponds kind of heads up. Your pond will be cleaned this once, such and such a year. Going forward, we're not going to do it. I mean, I don't know.
So all ponds moving forward one time, all private ponds are cleaned
Except for the ones that are already covered by the HOA, by the development agreements.
Well,
okay, here's my question. I mean, before you make this decision, we should probably figure out how many private ponds there are, how big these are, what this is gonna cost.
Yeah, I don't-
Because, I mean, you could all of a sudden have 10 ponds in one year that need this at an astronomical cost, because these are in backyards of, $8, $900,000, $1 million homes. So now you're talking getting equipment back there. You're talking some of these could be very expensive. So I mean, I think before we make a broad decision, just say, hey, we're going to do them all at
Yeah,
one
no,
time.
I
We need to kind
I
of
don't think
evaluate
so.
what's there.
these
We're talking
four,
about these.
yeah, just these, not an overall general policy of we're going to do that for everyone.
Okay, I'll play devil's advocate. I'm the owner of one pond here and you did it for this guy. Why aren't you doing it for me? I'm just throwing it out there. I mean,
No.
Right,
this is going to happen.
right. That's what I'm
Somebody
saying.
finds out that you cleaned one pond, why aren't you cleaning mine?
But Gary, that's
David's
what,
pond gets cleaned out, mine doesn't. No, I'm mad. I'm coming back to you guys. Why doesn't mine get cleaned out? Why are we getting assessed? I'm just throwing stuff out there that I know is going to happen.
but there's going to be a budget. And so for instance, if there's 10 ponds that need to be done and the budget, and it's going to cost 200,000, then we don't do all 10. We do one, we do 2 at a time, and we just keep clicking them off the list. And I mean, what else can you do?
Does anyone have the list that they can throw up there? I know it's been in a prior council meeting. I
Yeah.
can't find the note.
I was starting to look at it.
I'm clicking through all kinds of them. I can't find them. I mean, and to that point, like what is the time frame that we're thinking we do this? Do you do it now in the fall? Do you do it next spring? Like when do you see this?
Depends on where it's at for this one. You'd almost want to look at doing this. It's hard to say. I mean, access is going to be the biggest issue
Right.
to get in these without even looking at it. I mean, I'm just looking at an aerial. With the yards where things are at, there's no trails to this one.
The Yellowstone ones are pretty,
Some of them are very easy.
Yeah.
Some of these are very difficult. So
Generally,
a lot
I've
of
seen
these, if
them
you
in the
do, you can't
winter.
really do them in winter because you can, but you have, now you're also pulling out a lot of, frozen ice, because you're gonna have that. A lot of these should be summer, the spring, summer, fall activities. So, but like in Eden Prairie, they actually have saturation bags they put out there. They put all the dirt in there. From what I understand, it drains all off. They crane them out between the homes and they have this issue. So it's kind of a different system. So, most of these I'm going to say are spring, summer, fall. Not much you can do in winter here just because of the frozen soil.
the other thing you can do if they don't want to agree to it, couldn't you create a special, maybe I'll have to ask Sarah, couldn't you then create, so let's say we did these, then couldn't you create a special taxing district for the future?
Madam Mayor, members of the council, I believe you could, but you would need to get all the property owners to sign off on that.
Oh, so they would all have to agree to it? The city couldn't just carte blanche say, okay?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay. All right.
So I'm sorry, Madam Mayor, did you say something about assessments, like they would have to share in the cost of this? I mean, that just seems only fair because some of these, like Gary said, some of these properties are extraordinarily expensive and we're putting a lot of city funds towards those. And, I just think you have to maintain your properties. You have to share in the cost.
But
Bought it with that next to your property.
the assessment, so I think is what Sarah could speak to. You have to prove benefit. So, and that's hard to do with stormwater ponds, or is it not? I mean,
Madam Mayor, members of the council, I believe the city engineer would need to show, where the runoff from the various properties is going and if it's going to that particular pond or not. And that would show the benefit.
okay. So we could potentially,
It seems like it's opening a can of
Yeah,
worms.
and correct me if I'm wrong, but the benefit, there has to be a dollar amount that translates to, that's the benefit that the property owner receives by us doing this project. So I don't know, I've never heard of this, but I don't know what your thoughts are, but if you clean out a stormwater pond, does that affect your property value that much when you sell?
mhm.
So if it runs into your yard and floods it, if you don't care, then I guess it's not a benefit.
So like if you have to compare runoff, if you're on this side, if you're on the north side of the pond and the water runs towards the lake, so the people on the north side of the pond, clearly it's running into this, but the people on the south side, it's not running into this. So you just charge the people on the north side of the pond instead of the south side of the pond because they won't have any benefit. Their water goes elsewhere.
Mayor Whalen, just kind of.
Pay less for your
Hold
property.
on,
Well, possibly because.
Allison, hold on.
Thank you, Mayor Whalen. So I think from an engineering standpoint, when we look at benefit, we would look at the area draining to the pond.
Right.
That's high level what I would recommend where we start at. Now, to Jasper's point, I think the question is how much does an individual property benefit from doing that? And I think we would certainly have to reach out to and kind of cast a broad net and find out who could assist the city in doing that. establishing what's a dollar amount. So as council may recall, for the street improvement project, we had a valuation consultant that came in and did that analysis. Similarly, we would have to find a subject matter expert that could help us determine what that would be for stormwater.
Well, here's another.
This is going to get expensive.
Okay, hold on. Here's, right. But here's the reality when you look at this. In Palmer Point, how many units are in Palmer Point, David? Is it 66?
Yeah, 68.
So here we have 29, 30, I mean, do the numbers. I mean, it's going to be what, $1,500 per parcel or something like that? I'm just 29,200 plus 16,800 divided by 66, let's say. It's going to be $697 per unit, so $700 per unit. Are they really going to want to go to the nth degree for $700? That's, I mean, you know, are they going to really want to battle the city for $700? That would be the question.
Could it possibly?
Well, could this be like roads where we were talking about that, where you have an assessment and then the city pays part of it?
Right.
It seems like that's something that with roads, people accept that, hey, every so often you need to rebuild the road. This is the same thing where every 10 years or whatever, you have to rebuild it. So,
Right. And that's what I would suggest, doing like 50-50 split like we do with the roads. And that would then bring it down to about $300 a unit. Are they really gonna?
No, not,
I mean-
I mean, there's some $8 million houses in there and
right.
$10 million houses in there. So
What, Gary?
they should definitely.
Well, just
split.
put things into perspective. I just looked it up on the thing here, like between pond 6.8 and P6.8 and P6.9 out there, and you're covering over 25 drainage acres.
Right.
You know, so you're covering them wide, not just even that, but you're picking up water from other sources too. So, you know, with the HOAs, I mean, I think you know, approach the HOA, say this, and they're very active out, and I know out there because they do their inspections. We get records of these things yearly from them, so they do have a company that come in there. You know, so I think the first step for myself would be, you know, from my point of view, would be approach the HOA, tell them that this pond does need to get, you know, explain our system, how it works, how we scored it, and start that way and say, and see what the response is. I think you'll probably get fairly far with some of these
Yeah,
associations.
you would.
Even with Jennings Cove, they do have an association, so you just go and.
Or Hunter's
Yeah.
Crest even. I know they've in the past even contacted us to say, okay, when do we need to do this? I think a lot of HOAs are just looking for guidance, and they would be happy to say, oh, if you guys want to do it, fine, and then
Yeah, I
we'll
think
pay
that's
for
if
it.
they want just to pay.
Yeah, so
So
why don't we reach out and say, we have some, like you said, Gary, explain what's happening, and then just say, we have some high-level dollar amounts, and the city's willing to do this if you guys want to pay for it. If not, we'll have to, I mean, maybe that's the route we start at.
yes.
Okay. So Madam Mayor, option 2, where we reach out to HOAs with recommendations, estimate costs, and then bring that information back to the council with what response we
What the
receive.
response, and I would offer up that the city would be willing to do it if they want to pay for it, or share in the cost. I think, you know, like Peter said, if we do roads, we share the cost. Usually it's 50-50. I mean, so if they're willing to do it we can do it for them and they pay 50% of the cost, I think maybe start out at 100% that they pay. But if they say, well, is the city going to pay any part of it? Just say, yeah, I think they'd be willing to pony up some of it. So,
Okay.
All right. With that said, I think that brings us to a conclusion on our agenda, and we can be adjourned for about 20 minutes. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So, second.
Okay. Kathleen made that. Brian seconded that. All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes. Thank you very much. And we'll be back in 18 minutes. All right.